Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we're diving into an explainer that honestly might hit a little close to home for some of you. We're unpacking a really specific workplace dynamic, one you've probably felt, but maybe just couldn't quite put into words. We are looking at a fantastic organizational psychoanalytic analysis by researcher and psychoanalyst Sara Shadabi for Bookel, and it's all about why narcissism quietly destroys company culture. Let's get right into it and break down exactly how this happens.
Okay, you know the exact type. A new executive or team leader is brought on board, and they are just magnetic, truly visionary. They walk in, command the room with absolute confidence, and suddenly everyone is incredibly pumped about the future of the company. And look, companies intentionally hunt for this exact profile. They want the rock star, right? They want that person who can rally the troops, land those massive clients, and just project this aura of undeniable success. At first glance, this leader looks like the literal answer to all the organization's prayers. But here is where the story takes a pretty sharp turn. That exact same magnetic, visionary leader who looks like the company's absolute greatest asset, yeah, they could actually become its greatest liability. What starts off as this massive injection of energy slowly metastasizes into a cultural poison. And honestly, the scariest part about all of this is how quietly it happens. To really understand this, we've got to look at our first major concept. Section 1, the charisma trap. Now, a quick caveat here. This trap is not about playing armchair psychologist. It's not about just throwing around vindictive labels because you're annoyed at your boss. It is strictly about recognizing patterns. In organizational behavior, if you can map the pattern, well, you can predict the outcome. We're looking at this objectively today so you can spot these behaviors before one person's unmanaged ego starts dismantling your workplace's psychological safety, silencing your high performers, and basically damaging the whole culture from the inside out. So, how does the trap actually spring? Let's look at Section 2. When charm becomes control. Listen, narcissism in organizations almost never starts with obvious cruelty. I mean, if it did, HR would be involved on day one, right? Instead, it's a creeping, super methodical shift. It starts with step 1, confidence, charm, big promises, and that amazing ability to inspire. But as that honeymoon phase inevitably ends, the pattern shifts to step 2, rejecting feedback. Suddenly, that visionary leader gets highly defensive. And then we hit step 3, rewriting reality. When things go sideways, the leader actually bends the truth and shifts the blame to protect their ego, at all costs. And as this shift is happening, you'll actually notice a physical change in the room. The leader starts replacing competent collaborators with loyal followers. See, a healthy leader actually wants a team that pushes back and offers different opinions, but to a narcissistic leader, pushback is a threat. So they push out the independent thinkers and surround themselves entirely with people who will just nod, agree, and validate their warped reality. It becomes an echo chamber. Which brings us to Section 3, the mechanics of psychological erosion. This is where the culture really gets dismantled, using some highly destructive mechanisms to maintain a grip on power once the initial charm wears off. Mechanic number 1, gaslighting high performers. Imagine you're a senior data analyst, literally top of your field. You bring a report to this leader showing that a project is failing. Instead of looking at the project, the leader questions your methodology. They question your attitude. They make you feel like you are the one who is confused. They actively make highly skilled employees doubt their own judgment, their technical expertise, and even hard objective data. It is just profoundly disorienting and honestly exhausting. And Shadabi has this brilliant quote in her analysis that just perfectly captures this. She writes, "When facts challenge the leader's image, the problem is no longer the data, the problem becomes the person presenting it." Just let that sink in for a second. At this point, the organizational compass is totally broken. Truth doesn't matter anymore. Protecting the leader's fragile self-image is the only metric of success. If you bring them an inconvenient truth, you're instantly painted as the bad guy. Okay, mechanic number 2 is triangulation. To stop the team from uniting against them, the narcissistic leader basically manufactures chaos. They'll tell employee A one thing and employee B something totally different. They set up these weird artificial competitions. They drop little hints that your coworker is talking behind your back. It's all about creating constant comparison, rivalry, and confusion. By keeping everyone off balance and super suspicious of each other, the leader guarantees that they remain the only source of truth and power in the room. Under this pressure, the workplace transforms entirely. A normal functioning team operates on building trust, right? You collaborate, you share ideas, you succeed together. But under the charisma trap, the culture shifts entirely to just surviving the approval system. I mean, why would you ever share a brilliant idea with a peer if you're both locked in this desperate triangulated cage match for the boss's fleeting approval? You wouldn't. You just put your head down and try to survive the day.
And that leads to the third, and really fatal, mechanic, the absolute destruction of psychological safety. In a great company culture, a mistake is just a data point. It's a learning opportunity. Hey, we failed fast. Let's pivot. But under a narcissistic leader, a mistake is treated as hard evidence of weakness, incompetence, or even personal disloyalty. The margin for error drops to absolutely zero, and this deep, pervasive fear just settles over the entire department.
So, what are the real-world business results of this fear-based leadership? Well, they're devastating. Because mistakes are punished so ruthlessly, people start hiding problems. They're literally sweeping critical errors under the rug. They completely avoid honest conversations because speaking up just puts a massive target on their back. And worst of all, for the bottom line, innovation just dies. The company stagnates, all to protect one single person's ego. And that leads us right into our final section. Section 4, the silent culture killer. We've seen the trap, we've seen the psychological erosion, but what happens when this just goes unchecked by the board? Sara Shadabi sums it up perfectly. She says, the silent killer of company culture is not always incompetence. Sometimes it is charisma without accountability. Think about it. It's super easy to fire a leader who is just flat out bad at their job. The spreadsheets tell the whole story. But how do you fire the charming visionary who hits their short-term goals while quietly rotting the foundation of the team? It's that total lack of accountability for how they lead, safely hidden behind their charisma, that makes this so incredibly deadly. And here is the tragic final outcome of the whole shebang. By the time the organization as a whole finally wakes up and realizes what's actually happening behind closed doors, by the time the HR complaints pile up too high to ignore, the damage is already done. The best, brightest, most highly competent people in your company have already become totally quiet. Or, much more likely, they've already updated their resumes and left for a healthier environment. Because top talent, they absolutely refuse to be gaslit. So I'm going to leave you with this question to really reflect on as you look at your own organizational dynamics. Is your visionary leader actually your greatest liability? Are you seeing the patterns of the charisma trap playing out in your own meetings? Remember, just recognizing the pattern is the very first step to protecting yourself and your workplace culture. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep analyzing those